Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today, focusing in more in depth on a viewer question to explore the passive aggressive tendencies that are presented in a covert narcissist relationship, particularly that of a spouse. And passive aggressive is basically is a resistance. It's an indirect resistance to doing something. So indirect meaning it's not straightforward, it's not upfront, it's not about having good communication and saying, they can back their words up. Yes, I will do this. You can count on me. I'm here. I got this. I'm I'm your guy, I'm your girl. That is accountability, that is responsibility, that is taking ownership. Oftentimes we don't get a sense of that same ownership from a covert narcissist who displays passive aggressive behaviors. They will indirectly, be there as a spouse, as the family guy, as the provider guy, as the provider woman, as the nurturing, mother, if we're talking about a female. But there's very much a resistance to fulfilling, their obligation to you. In other words, meeting you in the middle. There's very much, a shrieking away that we see in the covert narcissist. So that's why when we say it's the shy narcissist, we see very much an aloofness or a kind of a, we almost feel like they're kind of meek. And so that is, I think oftentimes part of their original quote unquote charm is that they're meek and sort of soft spoken and unassuming. But yet, when they get into a group, they can be, have a very cool, calm, smooth demeanor, have a very executive presence, if you will, and be able to command attention because of their very stern focus, very intellectual, sort of cerebral nature that tends to be exhibited in a covert narcissist, and really sort of, allure people that way. But what, the issue is that there's not a lot of that going back the other direction. There's not a lot of, compliments, genuine compliments, feedback going the other direction. There's not a lot of other attending to in the other direction where, people are listening to actively. It might be a momentary listening to, but, you will find that the relationship discussions with the covert narcissist will be short-lived. They will have a small shelf life, if you will. They will not really go in depth or for, a number of different, experiences, where you go out and you're able to kind of develop, an ongoing sort of intellectual rapport with them, or, a sort of relationship, if you will. I mean, if anything, if it's about them, and then you're carrying the weight of the relationship, well, then there's going to be your, you're going to have to be the quote unquote aggressive one or proactive one, sort of bringing about the, the fruits of the relationship there. And so since, we find this passive aggressive where it's not going back the other direction, and people tend to, passively accept them the way that they are. But then the covert narcissist tends to, also then furthermore, like tends to sabotage others. In other words, in a very sort of subtle, demeaning way, belittle people, commenting, even though it's you have a natural talent for, for doing something, if it's not a quote unquote, according to what they think would be the right way to live or pleasing to them, or just some way that they can find to kind of undercut you, they're going to make a very sort of one comment, but it's going to be a nuclear comment. And even though oftentimes it's done by their failure to be there for you, they're going to make a comment to you about a lack in the relationship, or actually a lack in you, that you might be needy or feeling, so much so that you have to turn off, intimacy in the relationship. So, when we talk about the just very discreet sabotage, remember, sabotage, the root word of sabotage is from sabat, the French sabat, which means to muddle. It was originally a military term, so it's kind of like to mess up the, to muddle, to sabotage, especially to undermine and make unclear. So we see a lot of this sabotaging going on, whether it's sabotaging by lack of communication, by having abusive attitudes towards the person, which are unspoken but oftentimes felt, where they will think negative about this person, but not really vocalize it. But it's very much like they create the very insult of which they are alluding to. So it's a very sort of twisted pathology we see in the covert narcissist. So if you have been sabotaged by a covert narcissist by underhanded statements or the like, realize that they are it's due to their emotional insecurity, their lack of emotional intelligence, that they're not able to be like the greatest communicators in this way, and that they're not able to have oftentimes that open dynamic of communication within people, where they're able to speak up and talk about compliments to you or acknowledgement of you, and then furthermore explain their experiences, like I really want to do this and this. They're oftentimes not very vocal in this way. They're really just not communicators, but yet they can be very highly intelligent, and they actually are communicators, but it's just very selective whom they communicate with. And especially when it comes to be with a spouse, it's like they act almost very selective with their spouse. And it's like, this is your spouse, you got to open up the door a little bit and not be so covert, so concealed, so shut out, because this is perceived as very toxic, negative, and it's hurtful, and you're actually sabotaging this person by not acknowledging them. And they're very generally well aware of this, and they it's almost like a way for them to be passive aggressive more so, but just to not let everyday needs bother them. So they would rather abuse by neglect in this way. And they really do end up paying the price, because really then, it's generally years into these types of relationships that they then get confronted, and they see the error of their ways or the error of their judgment. So they had misjudged that they could be, so quiet and aloof and, carry on further into life, especially when they become sick or ill and then need the assistance of another, and then they find that they're people are getting burned out from taking care of them, because they have expected so much of and really done poor planning because of their lack of communication and foresight and planning, which you need to do if you're in a relationship. You got to have that accountability. So please do, protect yourself and realize that things do need to be brought to the forefront with these in these relationships. Make it structured. Speak your fears. Bring it out to the attention. I find that oftentimes people are so enmeshed in the covert relationship that they have never experienced or practiced speaking their truth or their needs in front of them, and they almost don't know what they are. They're so repressed. So you have to work at that and do that recovery journal. Start writing out, first thing in the day, your wants, your needs, your desires, what you want to become, the things you've been procrastinating about. Get it articulated, because once you start writing it out or speaking it out, if you can start speaking these things to people, I oftentimes find that can actually help bring it to life. And then you have those aha moments, and then you can break through and get unstuck and liberated from that. So you might have to be the one to do it and take accountability, but it's always, better late than never. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.